On May 17, 2017, Nvidia released the GTX 1030. Can't say much for the performance, but this isn't the card we're using today. You see, Nvidia also decided in 2018 to release possibly their worst ever graphics card in modern day. They released a graphics card with the same GTX 1030 2GB branding. You're probably asking, what do you mean? That's the same. No, it's definitely not the same, because you see, the card they released in 2017 had 2GB of GDDR5 memory, but this one they released was advertised with a silent cut down in performance. This new GT 1030 ran with 2GB of GDDR4. This might not seem like a big deal, but it cut its performance in half, so it is 50% slower than the original GTX 1030. Unsuspecting consumers were duped by Nvidia as usual. For example, this card often performs worse than the GT 730. Yes, it is worse than a card that is 12 years old that looks like something you would find in a random polluted alleyway. Where I found this old fart was actually in my dusty, cluttered cupboard, so not really that far off. To be able to make this thing even run in modern titles, especially RDR2 from 2018, I can't go any more modern than that because it will straight up just not work. Like, Warhammer 40k is just not happening. But to be able to make this work, I'm going to have to find any way to make this a playable experience. So not laggy or stuttering or low in FPS. I want to make this thing run buttery smooth. For Fortnite, I'm setting a goal of 300 FPS. And for RDR2, I'm going with a solid 50 because there is no way we are getting any higher than that unless we add some more RGB to our setup. I will now be removing my RTX 4060 Ti in despair and will be replacing it with the GT 1030. The size difference isn't too crazy, to be honest. It shows how Nvidia, despite being a snobby company, still sees improvements in efficiency. Now let's update the drivers. It seems like Nvidia is still taking care of this little one, because it automatically installed a new security driver for the card, but I reinstalled the drivers anyway just to make sure this card can actually function. By the way, this is a 1440p 240Hz monitor, but since the card only has a single HDMI port, I'm forced to run at 144Hz. In creative mode, we are getting 75 FPS on the high end and drops to 50 here and there. Remember, this is creative, so in game we could possibly expect about 30 FPS with drops to 15, and that would be a nightmare. So let's drop the resolution from 1440p to 1080p and see what we get. Our average FPS in Battle Royale is 58 FPS, with some drops being as low as 30. The highest we got was in the high 80s, but this is surprisingly playable experience. I was actually shocked, but it was extremely stuttery and laggy, and we're not even close to the 300 FPS mark. So I went ahead and changed some Nvidia control panel settings, turning off and turning on whatever I could. I also made sure to turn off Nvidia Reflex Low Latency, because this card is far too weak for my CPU, so this is not a situation to be using this in. But I got back into the game, and we are now getting already 102 FPS, successfully adding 25 FPS, getting me closer to my goal, but we need more. So I took our view distance from epic to near, which gave us only about 2 extra FPS, but you know, we'll take what we can get. So I went to control panel again and created a custom res of 1280 by 1080 and then got 233 FPS. Then I decided that 1280 by 1080 actually looks like butt cheeks.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Like, I don't know how people play on this because it is way too stretched. So I switched to 1600 by 900 and lowered the 3D resolution to 75%, which gave us 246 FPS. This is standing still, doing nothing, so kinda counts, but when I move around and edit, I get about 180 to 200. Let's hop in Battle Royale and see what this thing is actually capable of. Now that we are running at 1600 by 900, we're running at 75% of that, since we set our 3D resolution to 75%, which calculates to 1200 by 675, so 675p, which is pretty low. Not too much lower than 720p, but it still looks great and is very much a playable experience, as you will see in a second. After I made these changes, we see a huge improvement from the last in-game test, where I got at most in the high 80s, but now it's buttery smooth and I'm getting in the highest 190 FPS. Most of the time, I was above 140 FPS, so very smooth, because we're actually hitting close to or above our refresh rate. So if you didn't know, this improves latency and the responsiveness of your PC. At the lowest end, I got 90 or so FPS, so no complaints there. The average FPS by the end of the game was around 120 FPS, a huge improvement honestly. But we still have some more that we can squeeze out of this PC without making it look like crap. So in order to get our 300 FPS mark, I had to drop the 3D resolution down to 30%. From 75%, which made the game look like that one Mario Kart game. But hey, we got 320 FPS. So in Battle Royale, the highest FPS of the game was 196 FPS, and the visual quality has taken a big hit. To be honest, our average FPS at the end of the game was 158 FPS, and we didn't actually go below 150, which is actually crazy. Even though playing an entire game feeling like I'm playing Crash Bandicoot with how pixelated this is, I still got this crazy no-scope. So this kinda goes to show how you don't have an excuse when it comes to PC gaming. You have so many options, but when it comes to other more modern titles like RDR2 and Cyberpunk, that is not going to be easy, but we will try our best. So now that we have achieved our first goal, let's set out for our second, more challenging goal of trying to get 50 FPS in a game made in 2018. Here's an eye-opener for you. This graphics card is 2.5 times slower than a graphics card made in 2009. Its name is the ATI Radeon HD 5870, and it has a computing power of 2.72 T-flops, whatever that is. The GT 1030 here has a computing power of 1.06 T-flops when calculated. It is literally 2.56 times slower than this ancient relic. Like, this graphics card is 17 years old. How did we go backwards, bro?
How? How? I don't know!
Upon opening the game and going to settings, we can see that the game automatically set us to 720p. This is not a good sign. And our VRAM is not redlining just yet, but you will soon see why VRAM is very important. We also automatically are set to very low settings, but you will see it is possible to go even lower. For now, let's enter story mode.
Okay, let's go.
And as soon as it begins, it is already over, bro. We are getting 13 FPS just sitting by our campfire in the middle of nowhere, mind you. So let's go to Valentine to see how it does there.
My name is John Mustard! Well, let me have a roll of song on the board, I'll cut it. We worked so hard to build a little house together.
When I arrived at Valentine, I quickly paid my bounty at a solid 17 FPS. Had a chat with a fellow at a solid 20 FPS. This was nauseating to say the least. Surprisingly, the game didn't crash as I expected when I went to the center of town where all the NPCs go. Now, as soon as I try to go into settings, I already see a problem because, well, our GPU is running out of VRAM. The game is literally eating the VRAM. It keeps increasing, so you could probably play this game for a solid 40 minutes and it would crash. So I had to lower the settings, which this was difficult because it wouldn't let me apply settings because the GPU VRAM was redlining. So I had to drop everything to the lowest possible, like I mean the lowest. I even changed the resolution scale to 0.834. So we are playing at 598p on the lowest settings, and I didn't say this wasn't going to have to look like crap. Like, the expectations for this title was low from the beginning, but damn, I didn't know it would be this bad. So I went ahead and decided to drop the resolution scale to half, so 0.500, meaning I'm playing at 360p.
Roses are red. Violets are blue. Yo.
Finally, I saw some hope and gained 10 FPS, but we still need more. We're getting 45 outside of Valentine and 30 in Valentine. Playable, but the goal is 50. And damn it, we got so close. Like in one of the shots, on the screen you can see 49 for a split second. So I decided to drop the main res to 800 by 600. And keep the same resolution scale of 0.500, so half. I'm not even going to bother calculating that because it is very low to say the least. But when I restarted the game and applied it, because I had to create it as a custom res, we finally got 50 FPS. Of course while looking down, but I did it. I finally did it. Now I have achieved the goal of 300 FPS in Fortnite and 50 FPS in RDR2. With a graphics card that is considered to be one of the worst in recent history. This just goes to show that you can make it work with whatever it is you have, and that you should be grateful for the setup you have right now, because PC building and gaming is a journey of improvement where you go from scrappy to much less scrappy, and that journey is worth way more than having an overkill PC off spawn. So I hope you guys enjoyed the vid, and I'll have more like this soon. It will also be much appreciated if you guys were to sub to the channel, since this is the beginning of my YouTube journey and I'd like to keep it going because I enjoy making these types of videos.